Welcome to another episode of the Mixtape Matinee Podcast. I'm your host, Cole.
And I'm Court.
And today we have a returning guest on. We have Dan Shaw of Landowner back on.
Woo! Hey, guys.
And we're really excited to have you back on, Dan. You have your new album coming out, Assumption, that's going to be coming out on February 27th, which is super exciting. And you were nice enough to give us the link to listen to the album for this episode, which was super cool. So thanks for that.
Cool.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted. So last time we talked, I don't know if you remember, but we talked about we had talked a little bit about Current 93, and I finally listened to them because.
Oh yeah, how'd that go for
Are
you?
they the ones that do the twee violent thing?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I have to say I'm not a big fan, but I did try listening to it.
You tried it.
Yeah, that's
The
good.
juxtaposition
That's good.
wasn't
Give it a
for
try.
you, though.
Yeah, for everyone listening, check out Current 93 if you want to hear something weird. You might like it and you might not.
Well, I guess to start off, I mean, about the new album, I mean, it's kind of exciting. You guys are on a new label now. You're on Exploding in Sound. I was just curious, how did that all happen and come about?
Probably because of geography. I think you connect with labels where the people running the label know you already. And because they're based in New York City and we're from Massachusetts, we've played in New York City, and Dan, who runs the label, has seen us play live. And that's kind of just what I boil it down to. Like any band searching for a label to release their stuff, we emailed it out to various labels, and it naturally, I think they reached out to us. It makes sense. It's the one who we kind of organically already knew each other. Mm-hmm. Is where we ended up landing. So we're super stoked to be releasing this on Exploding in Sound.
Yeah, that's super cool. I know about them because I'm also another big fan of Pile, and Pile was on that label for a while. So that's kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. The show that I was first aware of that Dan from Exploding in Sound saw us was this little show we played in Brooklyn where not a lot of people came out to it. And we didn't really know what to think, and we were just kind of like screwing around. Like, we played a short little set of just little bangers. Like, we weren't trying to pull out any songs that would quote unquote impress the label guy. We were just kind of fucking off and having fun. We played a bunch of short little fast punk things, and then afterwards, this guy introduced himself to me. I'm like, oh, I know that person's name. He's Dan, who runs that label. So it's kind of cool. You know what I mean? Like, it was
Very
maybe
cool.
better that we weren't being pretentious, I guess.
Yeah.
We just were enjoying the show, and it did the trick, I guess, because a year or so later, he reached out to us to release this.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I'm really happy for you guys. When I found that out, I just got super excited. By the way, didn't even mention, but the album's great. I love it. I listen to it a lot. So
Yeah, spoilers.
Thanks.
We both love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. I appreciate hearing that.
I have looked at some of your previous interviews. I re-listened to our interview of you. Seems like people always tend to bring up the fact that you are a landscape architect. And I was wondering, since we last talked about how your designer brain and punk brain work in sync with each other, kind of on similar impulses, has anything changed or clarified for you about that connection?
Over the years, I've stopped trying to force parallels between those two practices, and
Okay.
as I sit back and look at how the creative process works in both those areas, a few common threads are like creative constraint is really present in both. Like, for work, I'm a landscape architect, and most of what I do is design public parks or like upgrades to existing public parks. And there's always creative constraints. So there's a limited budget. There's a neighbor's property. There's an entrance to the park that we have to maintain. There's utilities going through. So we want to put in a new playground, a new seating hangout space, but we can't just shape it like anything out of our imaginations. It has to fit the budget, fit the context, fit the site. And all of those constraints are the reason that you end up shaping the design creatively in whichever way you do. And music is the same way. And in Landowner, we have our own self-imposed creative constraints where the band almost has like a set of rules. Like, we don't use distortion pedals, we don't use crash cymbals, and we purposely have a really stripped back, limited sound. and that focuses a certain type of songwriting by having that creative constraint. And it makes it so we're not spinning our wheels and, reinventing things every time. Like when I sit down to write a song, I'm not messing around with the sonic palette at all. That's figured out. I open up my template, get to work on the next tune. So that's one way that comes to mind.
Yeah. I guess I have a follow-up question for that.
Sure.
If you're okay with me taking a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Cole and I are going to try to go back and forth, but which landowner, because you're right, a lot of your creativity, I think, emerges from the constraints that you impose on yourself, which is awesome. My question is, which landowner constraint, since our last interview, would you say has, if any, has become more important? And is there one constraint that you've softened on?
I haven't really reinvented the set of constraints too much, I guess.
Yeah.
And another is like, also since we last talked, I haven't written. That's not true. I have started writing a new batch of music, but the process has been probably pretty similar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do the rules ever get challenged for you, and what do you do?
Not really. Kind of a boring answer, but there's been a lot of consistency with how
That's great.
How my songwriting's been working with this band. It kind of I tapped into something in 2016 and basically have stuck with it. I mean, it's what ends up happening is just the songs themselves will surprise me. Like they'll
go an unexpected place.
Like, okay, yeah. Like, all right, I'm going to open up a file that has the drum machine in it, and I'm going to set a pattern. I'm going to start writing the music. This is how I build up the songs for this band. And I usually start the same way, where I imagine that I'm writing a little caricature of a hardcore song with no distortion. But like within minutes, the song just kind of drifts into being its own new thing. And it's kind of cool when that can happen, and it can twist off in some surprising direction that doesn't quite sound like something we've done before. I mean, I suppose that sometimes like I'll write a demo and I'll sit back and say, does that even sound like a Landowner song? And I think that the ones on this new album all do, but I mean, sometimes there's stuff I haven't released where I'll look at it and say, like I made this with the same kit of parts, but like, is this going to end up being quote unquote Landowner, or is this something else? And there's a lot of, extra files kicking around on my computer.
Was there any albums that influenced this new record that you were listening to?
The earliest influences generally with Landowner were like, I've talked about this before, bands like Antelope, The Fall, My Disco's stuff from like the late 2000s, where it's aggressively minimalist. And but pretty much at this point,
it's just kind of the same.
My references, it's become self-referential. It's like we have a kind of a formula, and so I just want it to sound like Landowner at this point, and I'll look back at our previous albums and say, okay, I want it to sound more like this and less like that, and learn from what we've done and try to make something that is even more satisfying to us.
Cool.
It's not very often that you get to talk to the lead singer of the world's greatest weak D-beat band.
That's right.
I saw, in an interview, you referred to it as weak D-beat or weak hardcore. I'm just curious, what are you naming when you use the word weak? And what does that decision let you say that standard hardcore tends to bury?
I thought of that funny phrase like 10 years ago. I was riding around on my bike, and this phrase "weak D-beat" popped into my head, and I thought of it. It would be if you took Discharge. Discharge is that early 1980s hardcore band, and like all the drum beats are boom cha boom cha boom cha boom cha boom cha, like that fast, like that type of drum beat is called the D-beat. So there's like a genre, like a subgenre of punk called D-beat, and I really like how formulaic it is. Like every single song is derived from the same exact drum beat, and usually it's extremely fast, extremely distorted, short, concise vocals, kind of barked about some short political idea. So I thought it would be really funny to take that form and strip away all the heaviness from it and all the distortion, and instead of being heavy and thick sounding, it would be weak, like thin, light. So I don't know, maybe it's the E sound, weak D beat just had a ring to it. And I thought that it was just kind of like a funny, unexpected mismatch of words. And it was a good creative prompt, I thought.
Yeah, I would say it's been a really great, fruitful, like creative way of approaching the music. I love it. I really appreciate. I appreciate how stripped back it is, because it's not abrasive. A lot of hardcore is so. I mean, it is abrasive. It's not distorted. A lot of hardcore is so distorted, but here you don't hide your lyrics behind like a thick fog. You know what I mean? Like your lyrics are there with these really precise sounds and really clean guitars, and I really like it.
That is what I like about it too. By not having distortion, there's nowhere for the lyrics to hide, so it puts a lot of like pressure on the lyrics to not suck. I purposely want the vocals to be understandable and very exposed, and for that to be a little uncomfortable. And going back to Current 93 a second, that's what I like about that band, is their lyrics are just so in your face, like the lyrics themselves. And so I like music like, and The Fall does that too, where like I kind of like the connection and how exposed that can feel, and I think it can be uncomfortable as a listener to listen to music like that sometimes. So it's enjoyable to me to set up the music that way with the lyrics.
Would you say would you say that exposure, that element of it is kind of what makes it, is that kind of what gives it the physical hit without the distortion in a way? Like, is that kind of what you're able to lean on to make it still feel dangerous?
Yeah. And then the thing with the not having distortion though is surprisingly it makes the music slap. Like, so we don't have distortion, but I believe that when we play live, the clean guitars all together are just bonking you in the face. It's almost more abrasive that way, unexpectedly. But there is not that fuzzy sonic element to obscure the lyrics too, and it can let the lyrics be more confrontational, more direct, and I like the feeling of tension that puts me in as a singer on stage, knowing that like the stuff I'm saying is going to be completely understood. It better be something that I'm here that I really believe in, and I would like people to understand.
My next question is, I'm curious about, so on this new album, you had Brett Nagafuchi. He mixed and recorded the album. You guys recorded it up in Mount Din in Bradford, Vermont. So I was just curious, can you kind of speak on him and how that process was? Because usually in the past, you guys have had your drummer Josh do the mixing and recording. So I'd just like you to speak on that a little bit.
Well, Brett is a great friend of ours, and he and our bassist Josh Owsley have known each other for a really long time. They go way back. And Brett lives in Vermont, so it's 2 hours away from us. And he lives by himself up in this remote cabin on a wooded hillside in a wildflower meadow in this really rural place. So for our previous albums, we recorded them in our own recording studio close to home, and our drummer Josh Daniel did the engineering and recorded us, but he was doing double duty. He's playing in the band, and then he's stepping over to the mixer, and he's running the show. So for this time around, we decided to try a bunch of different things with this whole process. And one of them was go to someone else to record us. So we went to Brett, who has a recording studio in his cabin, and he records bands up there. And it was like a retreat. We drove up there 2 hours, and then we were all camping out overnight for long weekends at Brett's house. And it's like, after your take is done, you're not just getting in the car and driving home because we're 5 minutes from your apartment. It's like, no, we're 2 hours away from home. We're all locked in here together. So we ended up hanging out and giving each other feedback on, everyone's parts. And it was much more of like a full band process that way. And it was probably good for Josh too, to not have to do double duty as much. He could focus on like his part, playing his instrument in the band, and then all of us were equally listening to the mixes and working with Brett on the recording process. And Brett's
Yeah.
just an excellent, patient dude, really super fun hang. And it was like good band time together to go up there and do it that way.
That's cool. Yeah, a lot of times when you're putting a lot of trust in a producer, and I feel like with this record, it does sound like a Landowner album. So I think that's cool that he really captured your sound, and then also what Josh has done in the past with his mixing and producing and all that. So,
And I should add,
Yeah.
Brett has filled in the past. There have been a couple occasions where like we've committed to a show and then it turns out somebody can't do it. Like we have, having 5 band members, it's like 5 times the odds that someone has a scheduling conflict. And from time to time, it's like, oh shoot, like we can't actually do that show. And on a few of those occasions over the years, Brett has stepped in. He's subbed on drums and on guitar at like, I don't know, at least 5 shows over the course of 9 years with us.
Cool. Just a really quick follow-up question. I'm curious, how many weekends did it take you guys to get the whole album done?
I lost count. It wasn't that quick. We did. So we went on tour to get tour tight. You schedule recording after your tour so that you're super tight at all the songs. So we did that. And so we did the first go around in the late summer of 2024. And we recorded everything and we did the guitars in this weird way where like we recorded the bass and drums live in the studio with just scratch guitars. And then the guitar players at home recorded the guitars direct in on their computers. And we sent those, and then that way they could each edit their takes and like get it just right. And, slice and dice and just make everything artificially as just the way they wanted it with the takes. And then they emailed those files to Brett. He set up amplifiers in his studio and put the direct audio signal that those dudes had recorded at home, ran them through the amps and mic'd up the room. So it's
to get the room sound,
reamping for the room sound with the amplifiers. We left the amps with them, and then we assembled it all together. So that was like 2 separate sessions. So then when we finally had the complete picture of like all the songs together, weeks had passed. We listened to all of it and we were like, okay, pretty good, but these 5 songs actually, big picture wise, aren't sounding the way we want them to. Start over again. So we went back to Brett's house and redid 5 of them with the bass and drums and everything. I was at this point, like our first, some of our earlier albums, our priority was just shit out an album to have a discography, do it quick. And on each of them, there's a thing or 2 here and there that I would prefer we had done a little more methodically. So this time around, it just said, there's no rush. Let's just take our time with it. So
that's cool.
Basically, August 2024 through May of 2025 altogether is when we chipped away at it over that whole time, and then did the mixing and then the mastering.
Do you mind saying what those 5 tracks were? I'm just curious which ones.
I might not remember what all of them are. One of them was Linear Age. We play that song live at most of our shows lately, and we've gotten used to playing it with a lot of energy. And we listened to the first recording, and it just wasn't like wasn't disciplined enough. It was a little too fast. It kind of lost the feel. It kind of suffered by not having the right pace. So that was definitely one we like talked a lot about tempo and what's the optimal speed where the riff feels just right. So yeah, that was one of them. I think Normal Returns to Normal. We might have, that one we reamped again. Linear Age was a big one, and
that's the main one. Okay,
handful of others. Yeah.
Cool.
I just want to bring up something that I find humorous that you've brought up in other interviews where you've called Landowner a friendly dictatorship. But it sounds like this process was a lot more democratic in a way because you did have that collaboration that took place. The question that I have for you is more about the lyrics now. I just thought it was funny to bring that up because it sounds like you had to loosen the reins a little bit. You've talked about agonizing over lyrics so that they sound spontaneous. You've talked about how that's often the hardest part of the creative process of writing songs for you. What's the most common reason a line gets cut late?
Usually if that happens, it would be because it's been bugging me in the back of my mind and I finally admit it or finally think of something better. If I cut a line late, it means that, probably probably hasn't been sitting right in the back of my mind. Been
That makes
bugging me
sense.
every time I go to sing it.
These lyrics on this album, I'm a lyric guy. I don't know. Cole is a lyric guy too, but Cole appreciates the technical aspects of music a lot. I really appreciate lyrics a lot. And these lyrics, man, you gave us a file with the lyrics, which I appreciated so that I could just read them. I went through them like, I don't know how many times. Great, great lyrics.
Thanks.
Yeah.
On your Bandcamp, it says that you're credited as doing occasional guitar on this album. What do you remember? What occasional guitar parts you were doing?
I sort of forget at this point. There's a few of the riffs. It would be places like I told you how we would like patch together the guitars by playing direct in, and there would be times where, probably because I originally wrote the demos and it's me playing them, then I'm teaching them to bandmates. Every now and then there's a moment where it's just like we're talking back and forth about how it should sound, and I'll make a decision like, all right, just give me the guitar. I'm just going to punch in this riff right here, just to get the right touch, just the right way. It's like, let's just stop discussing. Give me that thing. But I try not to do that too much. But hidden throughout the album, and seriously, I try to just not remember even. It's the band's song. Yeah. And then occasionally too, there's been a show or two where, like when I said before, a band member can't make it for whatever reason, and we've already committed. Sometimes I've played guitar at our live shows.
Okay. Well, I am going to switch over to talking about the new album now that I've asked kind of the general questions. I'll start off with kind of a fun, lighthearted one. If Assumption, this album, were a video game, what would the loading screen tip say? Like, you know how the loading screen will sometimes have a tip for the player?
It would say, don't make assumptions, I guess. Don't assume you know anything.
I like it.
That's the ultimate tip for this album.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
I was just curious, which song is the oldest and which one's the newest on the album? Which one's been
Ooh,
around?
that's a cool question. I think Enemy Attack is the oldest. Every album has a song. Almost every one of our albums has a song that's from the previous batch. And Enemy Attack dates back to the Escape the Compound batch. That's our second. That's our most recent album before this one. And we were practicing that at band practice back in 2021 or 2022. And then when we had to focus and say, all right, what's the batch going to be for Escape the Compound? We boiled it down to those 12 songs and kind of discarded some of the other stuff we were messing around with. So then we brought that tune back like a year or two later. And it's actually been a super fun one. And that was one where like my bandmates were like advocating for that. Like I had sort of forgotten about it and they wanted to bring it back. And it's
cool.
I'm super glad that we decided to do that because we play it live a ton and it's become a really fun one.
Yeah. And then newest song?
I think it was either Rival Males or Bow to Your Superior.
Okay.
Both of those are like short little bangers.
And both of those, in a way, you could say deal with toxic masculinity. I would say both of those.
You could say, yeah.
Yeah, definitely Rival Males.
Rival males, Christ inflating in a rage, beats his chest and spits, then back into his cage. Help me understand! Forcing motherhood! Help me understand! Forcing motherhood! Damning consequence! Compliance! Banning scarcity! Exploiting desperation of others!
That song, in my mind, is about the nuclear family unit in capitalism and like the pressure that the system puts on you to like reproduce so you have something at stake and you'll like work harder. That's kind of what I see that song as being about. And that
Productivity culture.
like the dominance of toxic masculinity is one of the forces that pushes that among others. And that is also part of the imagery in the song. And like any decent lyrics, I try to not be so didactic that you can't have other meanings in it too.
Well, one of the lyrics that you use, and I'll be honest, I've read it so many times they start to blur which song it comes from, but Christ inflating in a rage until he gets put back into his cage. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Like,
you know what? I have to, because you called that out, our guitar player, Elliot Hughes, thought of that lyric. That was one of the ones we were at Brett's place, and we were trying to figure out how to say, I was explaining what I was trying to say with that first verse, and I wasn't satisfied with the current couple of lines that I had there. I forget even what they were at this point, but it wasn't quite as like snappy. And I think he was the one who suggested inflating, Christ inflating in a rage, and it makes you just think of like a big inflatable like cartoonish beast, like getting angrier and angrier, rising up and scowling at you. It was just the right level of like crazy cartoonish imagery that paints exactly the right picture with like very few words.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great image, and the fact that he has to go back into a cage, like it's
right. It's a weaponizing religion is what that lyric is about. You just like selectively preach and use Christianity in that case to push people around, and then put it back in its cage and kind of go back to your regular life. And it's the hypocrisy of selective morals, I guess you could say, or misusing those morals, misusing religion.
I'm going to go into my top songs for the album. I'm not really going to ask a whole lot about them. I'm just going to kind of say why I like them. First one, I love the title track, Assumption. I think it's, actually, I do want to ask this. I think it's funny that you guys have that little keyboard intro at the beginning. I really like that a lot. And then near the end of the song, it kind of sounds like horns, but I'm wondering if it's horns or if it's a synth part.
Upon hearing it, I nod in horror. My assumption has begun. After hearing it, I laugh in horror. My assumption has begun.
Those are additions by Brett, who recorded it. So Brett and Josh Owsley, the bassist, did the synth intro. They kind of collaborated on that. That's the riff from the song Linear Age. Yeah. And so it kicks off the album just because it sounds like there's a little drawing on the album cover of these like dudes playing like medieval herald horns. Like, I don't know what you call them. And that little is just
it's like a little fanfare.
It's a fanfare kicking off the album, and it's very funny.
That's
to
cool.
us. And it reprises in the song Linear Age. And then the horns in the other part of that title track, Brett just surprised us with that. He was mixing, and he's got synths and stuff at his place.
Cool.
And he just kind of said it's what he imagined hearing. It's like you're mixing the song and listening to it over and over again, and he just almost was hallucinating this sound that he thought ought to be there. So he just gave it a shot to see what we would think of it. We really liked it. And now if we play that live, like we kind of miss it if we don't hear that. So we have to figure out what to do about that.
oh, cool.
Yeah, it's a great riff. I really like that a lot. It's cool that that you're able to throw some synth in there. It kind of makes it the beginning of the album a little different. I like that a lot. It kind of makes you like, because you're listening to Landowner album and it like makes you like shut up and listen. Like, oh, what? There's synth right there. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
I'm not putting these in order. I'll just go in order of that they appear on the album. I would say one of my top tracks for sure is Linear Age. Like the whole idea of doing like a
Timeline.
gamified version timeline of history, and with it, I love how you say that once we get surplus, the next thing is that you have a priest. Like I noticed that, and how that is true to a lot of models of the development of religion. Like when surplus develops, then you have all these other things that develop, among which is organized religion.
Develop surplus! You have successfully developed surplus. Develop priest! You have successfully
think there's probably like a long version of those lyrics where the list was just super exhaustive, and I boiled it down to just you know what I mean? 'Cause it's like, well, there's
release
like
it.
8 opportunities to say these various things. So what are
Yeah.
the top ones going to be that are punchiest?
I would listen to a 10-minute version. I'm not even lying. And I also love how in the end you win, or I don't know if you win so much, but with it ultimately leading to the landfill. And then
Exactly,
you're basically
yeah.
mocking this person who's regressed evolutionarily back into having amphibian legs. And like, it's just a
Well,
great
yeah,
song.
that's the end of the song is where it gets trippy, definitely. So the
Yeah.
song is based. It's like when I was a kid, I played this computer game called Civilization 2, and there's probably a million different versions of this. I'm sure other people played Civilization 1 or Civilization 4. I don't
I think
know.
they're like
There's probably-
7 now.
Yeah, there's probably other similar games like it, but it was this like map game, and you just you go through the development of a typical civilization on Earth. You could be the Aztecs or the Egyptians or the Japanese or whatever, and it had those types of milestones, and they all could get sort of mixed up. And it's also the song is also a little bit like regurgitating 4th grade social studies class in a way too. You know, it's just like the big
Yeah.
bullet points of what you learn about how civilizations develop.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
it seemed funny to have this cartoonish advancement of civilization, exactly like you said. The point where you win the game is when you develop the landfill, because it appears, I think if a Martian was looking at our Earth, it would appear like our goal is to build landfills. That seems to be the most successful, like full stop end game that we're achieving with our very linear, extractive industrial society. Whereas all other living systems on Earth are cyclical or circular, you know? But like humanity's footprint, the byproduct of us having our like industrial civilization doesn't regenerate the living systems around us. It just extracts, and piles plastic into landfills that get ever taller. So that seemed like a fitting way to end the game in that song, Linear Age. And that the whole title's about the civilization being linear. And then I purposely kind of liked not ending the song there. And it's like, well, consciousness goes on and, you know, life continues after that ridiculous landfill endgame apocalypse situation. And that's where the lyrics get kind of trippy and up for interpretation.
Yeah, to me, this song is the funniest one. Like when me and my wife were listening to it, we were laughing at the lyrics a lot. Like I love the line where you're like, "We have rockets. We have developed rockets. Now we have several rockets, and then we have dams. Now you know the secret of dams." Like that's the part that really
so that's
made me
like
laugh.
that's like the little pop-up window pops up when you're playing Civilization 2, and it's like, "Congratulations, you have successfully discovered the secret of
So
dams."
great.
Yeah,
You know?
and your deliveries, it made me laugh. I loved it a lot. And then just like about like the football, you got your football and you're crossing you're going in for the touchdown, and
And then
anyway,
you keep going.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
Go
yeah,
backwards,
at the end.
so.
Yeah.
Oh, you coward, crawl on your amphibian legs, crawl to the gates, crawl across the end zone with your football, crawl to the beginning. You get to play again.
I love that. My next favorite song, Enemy Attack. I love that song.
Fire! Fire cannon! Both start spinning in a blur! Both start spinning in a blur! Loose cannon! Loose cannon! Loose cannon! Loose cannon! Both like spinning in a blur! Both like spinning in a blur!
The riff is so good. It's very, to me, it sounds kind of Devo-esque in a way. I just really like how fast
Cool.
it is.
Yeah, that's kind of a little bit of what we're going for. It's like a jerky sounding fast riff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Awesome. I love that riff so much. And then I just really like like a lot of your other songs, when everybody goes out and then the drum part and then boom, you're right back into it. We talked about that on the previous episode, how you like to use silence as a way to like really make the song hit.
Yeah, to build some surprise.
That part is so satisfying. And then I really like just like the frantic guitar part at the end where it's really going fast, like and it's going crazy at the very end. It just has a lot of energy, and I can tell that that's probably a fun song to play live.
And a lot of the stuff you just pointed out developed live, like those drum hits and the guitar explosion at the end just developed organically from each of those guys playing the song at a bunch of live shows and kind of having fun with it and figuring out like what sounds good.
Yeah, I also really like the line "dark shades and a pumping fist." I like that.
Yeah, we
line.
were arguing about, well, not really arguing.
Well,
we were discussing what that means.
Yeah.
It's like a goonish video game character. Imagine like a pixelated guy with dark sunglasses with his fist pumping approaching you, like I don't know, like the Eye of the Tiger music video or something.
Yeah.
Like that type of vibe of just like tough guys approaching you, looking kind of menacing, in a song called "Enemy Attack."
Yeah.
And then we say it twice. I think the backup vocal echoes the lead vocal with that very line.
Yeah.
It feels strangely intimate the way that you say your enemy has come to visit you. Like it's like interesting because it's like kind of implying an intimacy there that you have because you're enemies. I don't know.
That's true. It's like just you're being attacked. Your enemy is approaching you. That's what the song is saying, and your enemy has come to visit you. It is like a teasing, playful way of putting it. It's almost like you're being visited by a phantom or something in the night during a nightmare.
Oh yeah,
your enemy has come to visit you. But yeah,
I also really like how your voice kind of cracks when you're yelling about firing cannons.
Oh yeah, that line's fun to say.
It's a really visceral part of the song, and now when I listen to the song, I always like singing along with that part.
Yeah. My next one is Uninhabitable.
Short-term reward system. You're entitled to your opinion until it triggers Armageddon. Father is home from hunting, mother is home from church. Father strikes at the frontier cabin door with slaughtered elk on shoulder, singing in a great baritone. Dark oiled hair combed gallantly. The picture frame cracks from the weight of this image. We blamed someone else.
This is one of the most like visual, like storytelling, like I love the imagery, and like this barrel-chested father brings in the elk and the family's like celebrating, but it's the last elk in the world, and like now they have the last cast of vinegar and of palm oil, which I think is a very like pointed reference. And then also, I just really like Uninhabitable.
The end of the song's funny when Death gives you a
and I
scone.
love the stuff with Death. Like Death slowly unfolds his picnic blanket. Death hands you a scone. Like it's just great.
I think I'm stoked that you like those lyrics. I think that that song is ridiculous and good. I'm really satisfied with those lyrics. And it does alternate between two scenes. There's a scene where Death is the Grim Reaper slowly setting up a picnic and inviting you to join him. And then it alternates to this crazy scene of a frontier family, like you said, where they're basically consuming the last resources. And there's some funny imagery throughout it. But it is a dark, ominous song. And I like that. It's it asks a lot of big, scary questions, and yet it's a funny song.
Yeah, especially with the vocals when you guys are kind of doing that almost kind of monk kind of chanting, singing the uninhabitable part. Like it makes me think of Dudes in Cloaks when I hear that.
Oh, cool.
So.
Yeah. Right on. Well, one of the voices in there is Brett Nagafuchi, and he does live like a monk deep in the wilderness of Vermont.
You probably didn't hear me. That was a stupid joke. I was like, does he live in a Swiss pavilion? Probably a horrible joke. But
Yeah,
anyway.
he lives in a Vermont pavilion, I guess. You could say.
My next favorite song on the album is I really like Parapet Wall.
Take me to safety. Take me to safety. You bank your prisoner. The door ajar. From the pain of caring. To the hinges blaring. To the parapet wall.
To me, the music in it is like really harmonically dense compared to a lot of the songs that you've written in the past. So I really like that. I like that halfway through the song is when the lyrics actually come in. And then I also again, I like that pause that you put into the song.
I wrote the music, and it came together pretty fast. It was one of those things like I'm onto something, and I stayed up past my bedtime to finish it on the computer with the demo. And I was like, what do I do with this? And then it occurred to me like, well, what if I just copied the whole thing, hit copy, and then hit paste after a little pause, and it's just like you think it's over, and then it just starts again. Like to me, for something that was extremely funny, like when I first did it, but it ends up sounding, I think, good. It's like this surprising thing, and like you said, that's where the lyrics start. And I like it opening side B because it's like the overture in the next movement of like an opera or something. Like, you know, like you're listening to like opera, there's a lot of intensity. There's a lot of people wailing and moaning and yelling about horrible things happening. And then you like take a breather. Maybe there's an intermission. And then like when the next movement kicks in, there's sometimes an instrumental passage that's like a tone setter, like a palate cleanser. And I kind of like the effect that track has by opening side B. It's like you don't get hit by lyrics right away.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Yeah, the music's just really good on that. I really like how it's a little different from your other stuff. So yeah, love that song.
Quick shout out to Slippery Abyss.
I do not need to tell you, for you have already been to the edge of the slippery abyss. Mistletoe on the compost pile, mistletoe on the compost pile. Remove your shoes to the door. Getting lost in the catacombs, lost in the catacombs, vanishing and perishing, lost in the tunnels, rusting grief. The more you learn to read the natural environment, the more you recognize the dying mother, and the more you work class hands with grief. Navigating the aisles, the many confusing aisles of the big box store, called Death and Beyond is second nature to the ecologist. Walk through the catacombs. Walk through
I
cool.
love
Yeah.
Slippery Abyss. Amazing lyrics. There are fairies who are not fairies, animals who are not animals. There are such interesting lyrics, and a fire which can once started cannot be stopped. Like so much of it, just I could probably somebody could write like a paper on it or something, like on that one song.
I will say something about that. I think it is interesting. Like to me, when I read the lyrics, it makes me think of like D&D like references, kind of like it's kind of
Like Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, kind of. But yeah, so I just thought that was kind of interesting too. Just using that as a way to tell this story, and then the actual meaning behind it. Yeah, I thought that was
That
unique.
song, I was writing the lyrics and wasn't satisfied with them, and I had this very impressionistic stuff, and it is like a medieval fantasy world expressing modern day anxiety over the state of our environment. But a lot of the individual lyrics themselves don't directly say that or necessarily even make sense. And in writing it, I got to a point where I basically stopped trying to make the song make sense as a narrative. And I just liked a lot of the individual phrases and surprising, seemingly random lyrics all knitted together. And I just said, you know what? This is just the lyrics. Like I just kind of decided to stop being dissatisfied with it. And then I really adopted it, and I've ended up really liking those lyrics.
Well, I'm glad you leaned into it because some of the lyrics are so bizarre or so vague or so like, what is this referencing? My brain really hooks onto it and really hooks onto those different parts. So very cool, very cool.
One of my personal favorite lyrics is in that song where I talk about you're navigating the many confusing aisles of the big box store called Deathbed and Beyond.
Deathbed and Beyond.
Yeah.
And I would imagine having like an album called Deathbed and Beyond, but you like wrote it in the Bed Bath and Beyond font, like crudely in pencil. You know, and you just had a picture of just like, I don't know, like a skeleton with like his eyes shooting out of his head or something. And just someone like just sitting up in bed, Deathbed and Beyond with the D stretching
Well,
out.
it's like all those people that like to go shopping at Hobby Lobby during Halloween. It's like that would be their favorite store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
in a way.
I was taking
There'd
that
just be a
as like
supernatural version of that store.
Yeah, a supernatural version.
a
of it.
comment on consumerism or something. But okay, well, our final pick is the final song.
Yeah.
Normal returns to normal.
The fog evaporates, and normal returns to normal. Leaves drop from the sky, people grow old and die. Test results are posted to your account, and normal returns to normal. And your dependents take control of their own lives, and your grief recedes as new events accumulate in your view. And set loose, you don't look back. Now the normal's returned to normal, with a few new lines on your face, with a new capacity for crisis. Normal returns to normal and takes your phony priesthood away. Scientists inadvertently disprove your apocalypse. Self-awarded Pulitzer Prize revoked. Grandmother's biscuits emerge from the oven. Your own hands hold the burning tray. Words of comfort find their way out of your mouth, addressed to someone else. Your selfish cave collapses, and it turns out only part of you was ever in there. A loudmouth whose reports were endless, but Earth is turning solid once more. Lifetimes been lived within lifetimes.
The bass riff is amazing. I mean, we talked about in the previous episode about, Mystery Solved, how you were like, this riff's so good, you got to play it for a long time. And that's kind of how I feel about this song, because it's a 6-minute song. Yeah, just really catchy. And I really like the lyrics in it are really, really interesting and really good. And I relate to a lot of them. Like, I really like at the end when you talk about, so much, you think you know everything, alone in your isolated prophet's cave.
So this song, unlike Slippery Abyss, in my mind, very, very much does mean something. It's really specifically about coping with anxiety, where when I experience a bad episode of anxiety that is like about a specific thing I'm afraid of occurring, it takes the form, like I've recognized over time that the pattern is I think I know the future. Like I am worrying about something that's not necessarily occurring, and maybe there's not a lot of real evidence that it's going to occur, but I'm really, really worked up about this like possibility that I'm fixating on. But that, getting to the album title, is an assumption. So in the second half of the song, the whole tone changes. There's like a key change, and the mood of the riff changes suddenly. And that's where that fog lifts, and just that situation and that outlook shifts unexpectedly, and like that dismal grip of anxiety can evaporate. And that's just like a surprise. It just feels like surprising that can occur. Like if I'm wrapped up in an episode of all-consuming anxiety, it's like those do pass. Like it ends. Like I'll realize like, oh, the thing I was worried about like didn't come true or whatever, or you adapt and you cope, and like the thing kind of recedes and takes up like less real estate in your brain. If it is like an actual permanent scenario that's here to stay, whatever it may be, like the state of mind that is so claustrophobic and all-consuming doesn't occupy your brain space forever, and like some state of normal does return. And so it's like that's what that song's about. It's about that transformation. And like when you're in it and you're just like, life is never going to be enjoyable again, that's an assumption. So there's a lot of like forms that this concept of assumption take throughout the album. But that's the most personal one for me, and I liked ending the album that way.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, now that you explain that, I mean, I go through the exact same thing like in my head. So I'm glad that you said that. Yeah, and I like that. Also, one of the lyrics is loudmouth whose reports were endless, but Earth is turning solid once more. So like what you were saying, like you may have these things that you're thinking or assuming, but still the Earth is still like time's not going to wait for you. The Earth is still going to turn, and so that's cool. And to me, and I know we probably should have started the discussion off with this, but to me, this album Assumption, it feels like the most cohesive, like as far as like the points that you're making with a lot of the songs. And I do like that that you're putting like that kind of that hopeful kind of thought at the end of the album.
Yeah, it feels like a constructive arc to build, to the extent that one of the songs happens to be personally useful for me to remind myself of how to get through an episode like that. Put it at the end. It gives the album kind of an arc and kind of offers something to people that way.
Yeah,
I like that a lot. What more can be said? I mean, you've said a lot of that just resonates so deeply with me. I really get into that all or nothing thinking about the future. And what I will say is so much of the album feels like you're deconstructing things. You're kind of using this prophetic voice. You're kind of casting these prophecies of doom. And then in the end, you deconstruct your own phony priesthood. And
exactly.
It's just so powerful. And that arc that it creates with the album for me is just really cathartic and awesome work. I just honestly I think this has become my new favorite Landowner album.
Me too.
Consultant was there for a long time. I think this has dethroned it and become the new one for me.
It's because we took our time with it.
Yeah.
We didn't rush it. We're like, let's get it
paid
right.
off.
Yeah. I appreciate that. It means a lot. I feel the same way. I think it's my favorite of our albums at the moment.
Yeah.
And for all the reasons I said before, we kind of knew what we wanted to do. And I mean, I have kids now, and that shifted my perspective on things, and there was like some very real stuff inside me to like my perspective on just existence in the world changed, and there was just some involuntary lyrical material that comes along with that. So a lot of the content of like some of the deeper meaning in the album felt like it just had to be said, that some of the songs did come about. Like I didn't have to force all of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, for this next segment, I thought it'd be fun to do a quick set of rapid fire questions. So don't overthink. Just answer with what comes to mind. I know that's me telling you what to do, and it might be hard, but I want to see your genuine response. Okay. I only have 4 of them. One word for the feeling you want the album Assumption to leave behind.
Surprise.
Okay. A word or phrase you're currently trying to write less of.
Politics.
The most unglamorous part of making records that you've learned to respect.
Redos.
And then one thing you hope people laugh at on the album Assumption.
Scone.
Oh, that's
By the way,
great.
I feel bad for blurting out the word politics too, because it's like I feel very strongly politically, but I just we've been over it, I think, in the previous podcast. It's more interesting to me to have the lyrics outlive short-term political commentary.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason I say that. I still like the underpinning values that drive us all
absolutely.
to be political are still burning in the album for sure. So that's the asterisk with that.
Yeah, which I guess is kind of the elephant in the room, right? We're in a state in our country where things are burning down all around us. We see the huge taking away of basic human rights from the immigrant community. We see executive orders that are hurting the environment. There's so much. And one thing I will say about this album is it speaks to the current political moment. And I know what you're saying, like maybe 20 years down the road, let's hope that these problems aren't still our problem, you know? And so maybe some of the short-term issues that are pointed to hopefully will no longer be issues. But I think it still holds up because it's kind of a photograph of our time. Like, yeah, maybe things will change.
Yeah.
Hopefully things change. But yeah, and I don't know if you want to respond.
The word assumption encapsulates aspects of that, I think. You know,
Yeah.
the first song on the album is just a little sketch of all the assuming we do from decontextualized online short snippets of things. And you see a couple of lines, you don't have time, and you just assume the rest of the article. You don't actually read it. And that leads to so much of the crap that we're seeing. No, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you have a strong opinion, but you're ill-informed, and it's
Yeah.
just
Oh man.
Yeah.
forming assumptions isn't just, it's something to be wary of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it seemed like a fitting title for the moment because of a lot of what you're saying. But yeah, in terms of the big picture of where we're at right now politically, all I can say to that is just stand up for your neighbors.
yeah.
You know, just help each other out. Like, just like I mean, I don't know what's gonna. We're recording this at the end of January, and everyone in Minnesota and Minneapolis is getting out there and sticking up for each other and helping each other out, and it's making ripples and having impacts, I hope. And that's just what people got to do.
I want to call back real quick to normal returns to normal.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting emotional. Not how many punk albums do that? It ultimately, to me, ends in KERR. Words of comfort.
Yeah.
It says, words of comfort find their way out of your mouth, addressed to someone else. Your selfish cave collapses, and it turns out only part of you was ever in there. And also it talks about cooking grandmother's biscuits, which to me is also an act of care. You talked about how fatherhood, parenthood has had a real impact on how you see the world. I was going to save this question for the end, but I think now is as good a time as any, and we're close to the end. Across this record, there's a real parent's eye dread about what kind of world kids are being born into, but it never collapses into pure despair. A lot of people respond to that feeling with anti-natalism, with the idea that the ethical move is to stop the whole project of bringing anyone new into this mess. You went the other direction and wrote through the fear instead. What finally convinces you that staying in the work of care, repair, and raising people is still worth it, even when the world keeps giving you reasons to think it isn't?
Well, you definitely picked up on it with those lines in that song. It is about the mental shift when you're caring for your own children and the way your priorities change. And then the like, I can't dwell on my own anxieties and my own kind of preoccupations as much as I would have before. If it's just like, fact of the matter is the kid's crying right now, doesn't matter if I'm tired, go take care of him, give him a hug, feed him, give him milk, whatever. Like, it's like, all right, get out of bed, go do it. And just that is daily life, every hour of every day, whether I feel like being poetic or romantic about it or not. It's just like, there's this kid who needs to eat, who I love mysteriously, like more than anything. Just like my brain just melted and exploded when each of these kids was born. And the process of doing that doesn't stop. And next thing you know, like, you're a grandmother or a grandfather, it's just, you know what I mean? Like you've done that and you're a parent, and all the evidence I see is that state continues. You care about these people you've brought into the world, and feel this obligation, this like supreme obligation to care for. So it has these like mental shifts that come along with it that aren't even like a reason. There's no reason to have kids. Like it's hard to explain. If you do it, they are the reason. And it does ripple out into having these other healing and good. There's like developmental, never-ending development that happens within yourself because of the endless challenge of caring for your children. And it just is like it's not, you don't have kids because you're seeking that reward. It just happens to, like, you know what I mean? It just happens to build you. And it also with the song, at the end of the song, like with the fog of that anxiety evaporating, having to care for someone else can help you get out of your own self-absorbed funk. You know, you don't have time to stop and mope about your own feelings. And it sounds like I'm saying, like, don't, like I'm not advocating for self-care. It's like, that's important. It's hard to explain. Right. It's I don't have a simple answer to the, well, one very simple. It's like I found by having children, my connection to humanity expanded, because there are these other humans now who I have like the biological connection, the brain love heart connection with. Kind of rambling, but it does, it widened my empathy. Yeah.
No, I really appreciate that, and you weren't rambling at all. I thought that you answered the question. It was great.
So I'm curious about the album cover. Did you take that photograph that's on the album cover, Dan?
I did. Yeah, it's in Rockport, Massachusetts, but the cave is not real. I photoshopped that in. There's no real cave. If you go there, the cove's not quite as tall, and there's a couple of like cottages in view, and you're probably going to see like boats and things. So I kind of photoshopped out the context a little bit.
I like how you have the little phantom in the cave, you know, from the previous album. I thought that was cool.
Had to have the Prophet's Cave in there.
That's the Prophet from the Prophet's Cave, from Normal Returns to Normal. That's how I think of it. Because that song is like, the beginning of that song, Normal Returns to Normal, it's this picture of like you're lonely, you're alone on this island of despair, like certain that your predictions of doom and gloom are true, and you are like Saint John the prophet in his cave, like writing an apocalyptic text. That's kind of the image being painted there for the first verse of that song. So it seemed like a good image to depict on the album cover.
It's a pretty picture, so I was curious where that was at. My other question is, I'm just curious, what do when your kids hear your music, what do they think of it?
They like it a lot.
Landowner's
music has universal appeal. Landowner's for the children. We are dad rock. Literally.
That's cool. So and your kids are like, my dad's a rock star. This is so awesome. Are they excited for the album to
they
come
ask
out?
for it.
Cool.
Yeah, they like it. Especially my son. He's the older one, so he kind of knows to ask for it more.
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
Yeah, he likes to dance to it and stuff. He's been to a couple of, both my kids have been to a couple of our shows if we've ever played like an early show outdoors. And they get into it. We put headphones on them, and they get into it and start dancing.
That's awesome. I love that.
I mean, it is weird. Imagine being like 5 and hearing an intense rock band and hearing like your dad shouting for 40 minutes or 30 minutes. Like that's kind of nuts. I don't know. I wonder what that's like for them. I mean, they seem to like it. I don't force it on them. They'll ask for it, and I won't put it on usually because I don't feel like hearing myself.
I think that's so cool. Anyway, I was curious about that.
In our last podcast that we recorded, the artist who we were talking to had jokingly put a required reading list out for their album that they had released. And I thought about this. I thought about what books would I recommend to go alongside Assumption, or what movies. And I came up with my own list. And I don't know if you said you're not a big movie guy. I think you joked about how 2001: Space Odyssey is like the one film.
Yeah, that's my one. That's like I pretend that's my one movie.
So I thought I would present to you this list and then also ask you: are there any books that influence this album or other works? They don't necessarily have to be books. We asked about albums earlier, but first of all, the movie Children of Men. Have you
That's a good one.
heard of this film?
I've never seen it.
Okay.
I don't know it.
To me, it would be a great companion piece to this.
Okay,
to this.
I'll watch it.
And Nicole's agreeing.
I concur. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Okay.
movie's wild. That movie's wild.
Yeah,
so.
Children of Men is directed by Alfonso Cuarón.
Yeah.
And it's a movie that basically is about a collapse that happens, a societal collapse that happens. And I won't spoil it more than that. Yeah. And it also has to do with parenthood, too.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one is The Road by Cormac
McCarthy.
let me make sure I say the name right. Yeah, Cormac McCarthy, The Road. It's okay if you're not familiar with that one either.
Yeah, I don't know it.
Okay, so basically that one is this father carrying his child through this post-apocalyptic place where basically everything is turned to gray and ash. And I was like, wow, that would be
I think I saw
great-
Siskel and Ebert review that when it came out.
Yeah.
Is it old enough that they would have reviewed it?
Well, this is a book, and then
Yeah, they made it into a movie.
and then they
but
did
it's-
make it into
Oh,
a
that's
movie.
what I was
Yeah,
thinking
they
of. Okay.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
thinking of-
But it was originally a book. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the last one is called The Production of Space by Henry Lefebvre. I struggle with his last name. Lefebvre.
Lefebvre.
Yeah. Which so much of your lyrics talk about systems and infrastructure and how those kind of are, how those hold power. And I feel like that book does the same thing. And so those are my humble submissions for a required viewing and reading list. I'm curious, were there books that influenced you, or are there things you would add to your own viewing or reading list?
I can't directly think of anything that influenced the creation or the writing of this album, but when we were recording it up at Brett's, I was reading Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky.
Oh,
And it's just coincidence. It has
wow.
nothing to do with the album. And I don't know if they have any connection at all, but that's just what I was reading while we were mixing and revising things and working through it. And I was really into it. I enjoyed that book a ton.
wow!
So I kind of
that's super
associate the
cool.
creation of this album with
To that
Crime
book.
and Punishment.
That's funny.
That's cool.
Yeah, they have nothing to do with each other at all. It's just random.
Cool. So I have my last two questions. They're short, so I'll keep them short. But so my friend Todd, who is a DJ on the same radio station that me and my wife have a radio, he's played you guys before. He has a show called The Virus. Anyway, Todd was wanting to know, is there any way that we can get Landowner shirts on the Bandcamp page?
I don't know. Oh, you mean for us to be able to sell them?
Yes. Yeah.
I
He
don't
wants
have-
to buy a shirt.
I don't have time to do that. So no.
Okay. No, that's fine. And then
I would have to make trips to the post office or something and figure out a whole bunch of stuff. I got to come to the show, which means I know we would have to come tour your way. We'll do that someday. I want to do that.
And then the other question he wanted to know is, he wants to know, what's your favorite album to listen to while you're making breakfast?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a cool question. This is a weird one. Lately, my go-to for the. Oh no, I thought of a better answer. 4 months ago, I was making breakfast and I let my daughter pick out a record, and she didn't know what she was doing because she's 3, and she just pointed to the spine of a random record, and it was "A Love Supreme" by John Coltrane.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
That's a great album.
And it moved me to tears, and I have no idea why. I was making breakfast with just tears of mystery running down my face, listening
That's
to
John
A Love
Coltrane for
Supreme.
you.
Like I had no idea what was going on, and that's a record that I bought in 2008 and I didn't know anything about jazz, and I've never been a student of jazz at all, but I kind of knew people like this album for some reason, so I guess I should own it, and I just bought it randomly, and I completely didn't get it at first,
that's
but I
funny.
kind of enjoyed it enough that I never went too long without listening to it. You know what I mean? I just kind
Yeah.
of threw it on, but I never felt like it immediately like flicked a light switch on in my brain or anything. But instead, it was like this slow creep into my consciousness, to the point where a few months ago, my sweet little 3-year-old picks it out while I'm making breakfast, and I put it on, and it just completely like shifted my whole soul for reasons I can't pinpoint. I have no idea what it was about it.
And the pancakes were extra salty that day. Because they were
Yeah, right.
flavored with your tears.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It was pretty cool.
I had a similar experience too when I listened to Love Supreme. Yeah, that's just John Coltrane. He's just a really spiritual guy. Yeah, I remember I actually teared up a little bit too when I listened to it. So yeah, that's cool. That's a cool story. I like that.
Okay, I lied. I had my last serious question.
Dude, keep
But-
them coming. I'm ready.
I have one last lighthearted note to end on. If Landowner, so you and your bandmates, had to design a small public park that sounds like the band, what's the one feature you'd insist on?
Just paving. It would just be a slab. It wouldn't have any greenery. And it would be a really abrasive space to spend
Just
time
like a
in.
brutalist.
Yeah, it'd be brutalist. Yeah. It would be the
And it
kind of
makes it
space that I actually avoid trying to design in real life. Yeah. But the thing is, it would be small. It wouldn't be that
It was too
big.
small.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It would be like it'd be like a modestly scaled slab.
Yeah.
I love it. That's great.
That's a great answer. Well, thanks, Dan, for being on. We really appreciate it. Everybody go out and listen to the album and go get yourself a copy of it. My wife ordered the special edition vinyl. I guess there's like a different color variant.
Oh, yeah,
Anyway,
there's a
so-
color variant. Yeah, definitely. If you like interesting color, get that.
Yeah, so go out and buy this record. Support Dan and Landowner.
Hey, and if anyone else who's listening has more questions about any of the songs, come to one of our shows and find me, and I can fill you in on whatever we didn't cover here.
Yeah.
I have
sure.
more questions, but I'm restraining myself.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Dan, and yeah, good luck with the shows coming up, and we just hope you have a lot of success with this album. We really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me back on, guys.
no getting used to. Constantly on the lookout for a way out. Glance in vain for proof it isn't true. You know so much you think you know your future. You know so much you think you know everything. You've written your own horrible book to end your own horrible New Testament. Alone in your isolated prophet's cave. Perspective cast adrift, twisting in upon itself. If I ever get through this, I'll never forget you. If I ever get through this, I'll return to these ruins each day on my way to work and kneel here quietly. Entropy is pulling, tugs like gravity, constantly inviting you to relax into disorder. Your constant effort is directly opposed. This is nothing too exhausting, it's just life. And after enough time,